Hey, are you looking for epidemiological study design? You have come to a right place because we have got what you are looking for. Also, there are three hidden secrets of epidemiology in this video. Write your answer in the comments if you can figure it out. We will discuss types of epidemiological studies, how to carry out these studies, and which are the advantages and disadvantages. Let us make your concept clear by answering all your doubts. Let's get started. First of all, what do you mean by study? In a nutshell, study is a scientific procedure that involves responding to any topic with data from community. It can be any question. For example, does drinking alcohol cause liver cirrhosis? Is there more disease in one country compared to other? Or which food is responsible for food poisoning outbreak? So the first thing to do in any study is to have a study question. What are we trying to find out? Then we need to figure out the best type of study that would help us answer the question. Once we have decided on study type, we need to do the study, collect and analyze data using a suitable statistical method. Then we need to interpret the result to make the sense of it all. And finally, we need to report the result of our study. And most importantly, all study needs to be done in an ethical way. Now let's have a look at few different study types. An ecological study is the type of study where measurements like disease rates and information about exposure are made on a group of people. The group can be as small as people in house or as large as people in entire country. It's important to remember that result and conclusion from ecological studies apply to a group and not to individual. Ecological studies are useful for comparing the health of population in different places, such as measles rate in New Delhi and Kerala, or at different times. They are also useful for generating questions and highlighting issues that can lend themselves to future investigation or studies. A case series describes the characteristic of a group of people who have the same disease or the same exposure. The aim of this is to understand the demographic, clinical presentation, prognosis, or other characteristic of people who have particular disease or describe something unusual. For example, in the early 1980s, the occurrence of unusual pneumonia in men led to the recognition and identification of HIV. A cross-sectional study takes a selected population and measures health information at a given point in time, giving a snapshot of their health. It usually involved asking participants a series of questions using a questionnaire. Health survey that collect health information about people in a population is an example of cross-sectional study. Because these studies commonly measure how many people have a disease at particular point of time, they are also called as prevalence studies. It is important to make sure that the selected population is representative of the total population. Cross-sectional studies are relatively inexpensive and easy to conduct. Compared to other studies, they can provide information on multiple exposure and outcomes and are a good way of assessing the health needs of population. However, because the information is collected at a single point in time, it cannot be used to determine whether a particular exposure caused the disease or not. A case control study starts off with cases. These are people with disease. It uses a comparison group called controls, who are similar to cases but do not have the disease. Then both groups are asked about their previous exposure to different risk factors. Now, for each of the risk factors, the odds of being exposed if they were case is compared to odds of being exposed if they were a control. This is called an odds ratio. An odds ratio of more than 1 means that the people with the disease are more likely to have been exposed to that risk factor than the people without the disease. This suggests that it could be a possible cause of the disease. An odds ratio of less than 1 suggests that it is protective factor and 1 suggests no association. Case control studies are commonly used in foodborne outbreak investigation. For example, we can compare the odds of eating different kind of food between people who fell ill after consuming a meal and those who didn't. If the odds ratio is greater than 1 for a particular type of food, then it's possibly the cause of the illness. A major advantage of case control study is that they are often quick and cheap to do. Also, because they start off with cases, it can be used to study uncommon diseases. However, because the studies involve a small numbers, they are not good to study rare exposure. One of the challenges in a case control study is to find suitably matched controls. Also, because studies ask about exposure in past and people might not be able to recall their exposure accurately. Let's have a look at cohort studies. Now, in cohort studies, a group of people has followed over a period of time to see what happens to them, and information about risk factor is collected. We can then compare the occurrence of an outcome like disease in those who are exposed to a particular risk factor to those who are not exposed to that risk factor. The main measurement used in cohort study is called the relative risk. A relative risk is the ratio between the risk of disease in the exposed group compared to the risk of disease in the unexposed group. A relative risk of greater than 1 means that the exposure is associated with increased risk of disease. If it is 1, it indicates that the risk is the same, and if it is less than 1, it indicates that the risk is lower. A well-known cohort study is the British doctor study done in 1950s, where a group of doctors were followed up many years. This study provided valuable scientific evidence of the harmful effects of smoking, especially the link between smoking and the lung cancer. One of the main advantages of cohort study is that the time sequence of events can be determined. This is useful when trying to determine what caused the disease. Another advantage is that the information about several different outcomes and the risk factor can be collected at the same time. This allows for sub-analysis to be conducted on the data. A disadvantage of cohort study is the high cost, and they can involve a large number of people being followed up over a long period of time. They are generally not suitable to study rare diseases. A challenge in cohort study, especially one that are conducted over a long period of time, is ensuring that the people who started the study stay until the end of the study. If the many people drop out, it will affect the result of the study. Now let's look at another type of study, an interventional study. In an interventional study, intervention is done on a group of people and the outcome studied. Example of intervention can be giving a medicine, a vaccine, or health advice. The outcome can be things like change in disease status or change in the behavior. A randomized control study is the base study designed for an interventional study. Say we want to study the effect of new drug, we start off with a study population. People are then randomly allocated to be in the intervention group where they receive the drug or in the control group where they don't receive the drug. Then after a suitable time period, the outcome in the two groups are assessed and compared to see what effect the drug had. Outcome can be things like change in the disease symptoms or death rates. Ideally, neither the participant nor the investigator should know which group received the intervention. This is called double blinding, and ensure that neither of them can influence the outcome of the study. The main advantage of randomized control study is that it can provide good evidence that the intervention led to an outcome. Randomization ensures that the both groups have equal chance of receiving the intervention and that they have similar characteristics. This way, the effect of intervention can be determined without other factors influencing the outcome. The disadvantages are that the studies are generally quite expensive to do. It may also require a large number of participants. It may not be suitable in some situation. We are not giving an intervention, may be inappropriate or unethical. Finally, sometimes it's hard to keep up with all studies that have done on particular topic, but thankfully there are studies that summarize other studies. There are two main ways that this is done. A systematic review systematically identify all the relevant study on particular topic, assess the quality of each study, synthesize and interpret the finding, and present an impartial, unbiased, and balanced summary of the evidence. A meta-analysis uses the data from all the studies that have addressed the same question and have similar study design. It then uses the data from this study to do a combined statistical analysis and produce a single summary result. That is the overview of epidemiological study designs, which moves from simple observation to more robust comparison in the form of RCT, from correlational research to experimental research, and from correlational analysis to causal analysis. If you like this video, don't forget to leave us likes and subscribe the channel. Have you found the hidden secrets of epidemiology? Please answer in the comments below. See you in the next video.